Here are 3 tips to help you get better at putting. Let's get right into it. The first thing is consistency. You cannot become a good putter without any sort of consistency, because the foundation of muscle memory is doing the same thing over and over and over until you get it locked in. So for most people, that will probably look like, if you have a basket, just getting out to the basket every day, doing whatever you can, whether it's 10 minutes, whether it's 20 minutes, however much, especially leading up before a tournament. You just have to be getting to that basket every single day, because that is how your muscle memory is built. You're better off to do 10 minutes every day, 7 days a week, than do 2 1-hour putting sessions throughout the week. You just can't substitute the quality of consistency. The other thing about consistency is that if you're going every day and it's just a nice short putting session, straight to the point, is that you're never going to get tired. It's much easier to stay focused if you're putting for 10 minutes than if you're going out and putting for an hour, or if you're going out and doing longer. And the consistency, like I say, it really just helps nail in that pattern of going out and doing it, so that next time you do it, you'll be able to focus easier. You'll probably make a few more putts than last time, which will just continue to lead into how you putt on the course. That being said, you do need to switch it up a little bit. Have days leading up into tournaments where you putt more, or days where you're not got anything coming up, you putt less. You have to tailor it to yourself for sure. But the number one thing is, as often as possible, you have to be getting out to a basket. The next thing I want to talk about is how you actually go about doing your putting. It can be different for a lot of people. I'd like to stick to, it's almost like a very mixed philosophy. Some people have this thing where they will go to, say, 25 feet and stay there for their entirety of wherever they're putting. I like to switch it up a bit. I don't tend to focus on circle 2 so much. Circle 1 is definitely where it's at. You have to be nailing those 25 footers if you want to get better. That is where all the money is made, because if you can't make a 25 footer, how can you expect yourself to make a 40 footer? So the first thing is, you have to work in some sort of short to mid-range C1 practice. And this is more likely going to be higher volume, but lower concentration on the reps. So you want to just be getting the putts out there, getting the muscle memory in. So this could look like something I like to do is I'll build up from 10 feet to 15 feet, 20 feet, 25 feet, 30 feet to start off my putting sessions. But I will spend a lot of time in that 20 to 30 foot range, because I know I'm solid from 15 feet. I don't really need to practice those putts. I'm solid from anything inside of there. But I know that if I can get those extra two putts around that you might miss if you don't practice that range, even though it might not feel the best to do, well, it should, because you should be making a high percentage of it. It's where the highest yield is. You just have to be putting from that distance. Putting from further is nice. It makes you feel good if you see yourself go from making no circle 2 putts to making 1 or 2 around. But at the end of the day, your circle 1 putts are just so much more fundamental, because you don't tend to triple putt from circle 2 putts. You'll triple putt from when you miss that 25 footer, and then you miss the 25 footer coming back. So you just have to have circle 1 nailed down. It also reduces your 2-putt rate. Everything just combines to make sure that all those shots are just disappearing when you practice from circle 1. So my recommendation is spend maybe 70% of the time that you're putting inside of that range of 20 feet to 30 feet. Depending on where you are in your journey with your putting, that can change. If you're earlier on, obviously maybe take it into 10 to 25 feet, or even 15 to 25 feet. But once you get more experienced, you definitely want to be nearing towards that 25-30 foot range. This is something that a lot of the pros do as well. I know Gannon Buhr, I don't know if he still does it anymore. He used to just sit in his room at 25 feet and just nail that all day. That was all his putting comprised of. Eagle McMahon did the same thing. He used to talk about how he would just go to 20 feet. he would just putt all day, just get that muscle memory locked in. You have to nail your circle one putts. It's not an option to miss them if you want to get better. The third and final tip I have for you is develop a routine. Seriously, this is what every single professional does. Any sport, you look at baseball pitchers, you look at, I don't even know, bowlers, anything that includes some sort of repeated repetition of, a skill-based thing. Darts, you will have a routine. You have to have that routine. This will comprise of cues before you're putting as to dialing in your mental focus, as well as knowing when you're putting your routine and what should be happening in your putt to make it go in. So for me, mine is very simple. I don't mark my disc. That can be a cue for a lot of people. They mark their disc and that signals to them, okay, time to lock in. We're focusing, we're gonna make this putt. I simply just step up to my lie and shuffle a bit. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. It can be something as simple as that. I shuffle my feet, I look at the basket, dead on, and then I'm locked in, I'm focused. And just having that, it can just be a tiny wee little thing. Having that will seriously just make such a difference to your putting, because it just cues up your body to make the putt more consistently. But you have to practice your routine. It cannot be a tournament routine. This is where you have to sort of build it up in practice. So even when you're putting from those shorter distances that I was talking about earlier, you have to step up, putt the same that you do every time. So a simple way I like to do this, because my routine is very, simple, it's not very long. I will simply putt while I'm practice putting, and then I'll step back from my disc, then step forward. All it is one step back, one step forward, every single rep. And what that does is it resets my feet. It means that I have to then refocus on the basket and prepare to make that putt. The other thing that this comprises of is a lot of the time I will have cues in my putt. This is something that's a little bit more advanced, but it'll be the thing that you feel the most comfortable doing when you're putting to know that it goes in. I don't know quite how to explain this. So for me, I'll just give an example. For me, recently, it's been that I bring the disc down slightly low into my right hip. And all that does is cue up my brain, like I say, to bring back the focus that I had when I was making the putts in practice. So you can have these cues that cue up your brain, tee up your brain to actually make the putt, and then also physical cues while you're putting that mean that you can putt the same every time. Because if you're someone who sometimes in their reach back pulls to their right hip or their left hip, or too low or too high, just having that consistent routine through these cues that are somewhat physical rather than mental, it just can help so much with your consistency. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.